This show contains discussion of general investment strategies for information purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. Diversification cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. It's time for Your Money Puzzle Podcast, with good conversation and realistic solutions to the money puzzle problems we all face every day. Now let's get things started with our hosts. Here's Robert Edgin and Brian Johnson.
Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgin, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. This is the place for candid conversations about money, finance, investing, and all of the other pieces of the money puzzle that you need to figure out so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the future that you dream of. This is episode number 55, and today we're going to cut to it because we've got a special guest in the studio, Taylor Jade. Taylor happens to be my daughter. She lives in Los Angeles, and she's been supporting herself both in front of the camera and then transitioning to behind the camera since she was 18 years old. She's been out there supporting herself. She has figured out how to grow a business in the new era of work that we live in. She's figured out how to be an entrepreneur, and she's got some really good financial lessons and business lessons for young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general. She's going to talk to us about why you should chase happiness versus money and how it's actually helped her increase her financial situation, improve her financial situation. We're going to talk about, the power of reading. Taylor talks to us about, how she has used the quarantine and what's happened during this whole COVID-19 pandemic to actually make her business bigger. And then make sure you stick around to the end. Taylor has a few pieces of great advice that she's got out there for all of the millennials, for all of the young entrepreneurs. So make sure you stick around to the end for that. So that's it. Let's jump into it with this special interview with Taylor Jade. All right, so I've got Taylor Jade in the studio with me this morning. First off, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert.
Very nice of you to be here. Now, I've noticed that you've got an interesting last name. I was wondering, how do you pronounce it?
Sometimes, depending on where you go, you could go with Edgin, you could go with Edgin, but I personally like going with Edgin, but I chop it off sometimes and I just go Taylor Jade for Taylor. Makes it easier.
You go by Taylor Jade in
Taylor
your career, but Edgin is the last name, which, by the way, I'm going to have to say is an amazing last name.
It's a cool last name.
If I'm just saying so. So why don't we start off? Tell us a little bit about your story. Where do you live? What do you do? Give us the Taylor Jade 101.
Okay. I'm Taylor Jade. I was born and raised in Colorado Springs. My dad's name is Robert Edgin, and he is hosting this podcast. And what about my story? I left Colorado Springs at 18 years old in 2013, and I moved to Los Angeles, where I've been living for the last almost 7 years, which is really weird to say. I've been living there almost 7 years.
It's crazy. It's weird to hear.
It is.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I've been gone that long. Also feels like I've been gone for 10 years, so it's
at the same time.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. But I moved there to be a professional dancer, and I was pretty successful at it for a while. And then I kind of got bored with it, and my body is just not prepared to dance and wear and tear for my whole life. So I started doing creative direction and social media marketing and brand strategy, artist development, pretty much just being on the production side of everything rather than the entertainment side. Although sometimes I do dabble back and forth. I like being behind the scenes more.
So you were in front of the camera, now you're behind the camera.
Yes.
But you moved to LA when you were 18.
Yes.
Was it scary moving to a city like Los Angeles at age 18 and branching out on your own?
For me personally, no. I was ready to leave Colorado Springs when I was like 10 years old, ready to move to LA, and dreamt of being famous from the time I was like a baby. So for me, it just felt like I was pursuing what I was supposed to pursue. And I think the scariest part is just how expensive everything is.
Yes.
But besides that, I feel like my dad helped me be pretty outgoing. So I wasn't very
You were not scared
to go try new things.
Yeah. And one of the things that I have admired about you and what's been going on in Los Angeles is how you have adapted and changed and figured it out as your interests and your passions and your ability, like you said, with your body starting to hurt, have changed what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
So did it scare you to go say, I'm not going to be in front of the camera anymore, I'm going to go behind the camera? Were you worried about that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm still worried about it sometimes, to be honest, just because you spend so much time. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I've been dancing for 21 years, which is a really long time. Yeah.
You did start when you were 4.
I did.
Yes.
I'm about to be 25
yes.
next month. So I've been dancing about 21 years. So to transition from something you've been doing for so long, it almost feels wrong to go dabble in something else, especially thinking about, my parents spent lots of money to have me be a dancer. To not pursue it for like the first 2 years, I would say, felt like I was almost like failing you guys and like failing myself in a way. But I think what I've been able to do behind the camera has not only made me a ton of more money than what I've done as a dancer, but it's also helped me be more creative in general and problem solve better. And yeah, it was really scary at first, but I think it's better now, although sometimes I still go back and forth with it.
So do you think that being in front of the camera for all those years actually helped you do better behind the camera?
Mm-hmm, definitely. I think if I wouldn't have been in front of the camera, I would have no idea how to operate behind a camera. But now that I am behind a camera, I know how the person in front of the camera has to be treated, what they need to just pretty much, I just know how to direct people really well now that I've been
on both sides.
Yeah.
So you've been an entrepreneur pretty much forever,
yeah.
At least since you've been out there. So have you always had the idea that you wanted to be out on your own, doing your own thing, and kind of running your own business?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have to blame you for that.
You're blaming that.
I'm
blaming
blaming
me
you for that.
So
yeah, I think since, how old was I? Like 6 years old when I started doing lemonade stands or something. And I was choreographing dance routines for our lemonade stands to try to make more money for our lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that every single summer on top of trying to do caricatures and like draw people for a while. And then I was like making clothes when I was a young kid, and then I was dancing forever. So I think I've always had the idea that I would be running a business or running something of some sort.
And it's pretty much what you've always done. You've had little gigs here and there where you've worked for other people, but for the most part, you've earned your living and continue to do so by figuring out how to get clients. So, which is a question. I mean, how do you get clients, and then what do you do for them now?
Well, I've been really blessed to be all word of mouth. Like at first I thought everything would be social media based. When I was a dancer, everything was social media based. I worked for, I think, 6 months building my Instagram following by like 65,000 so I could be booking more jobs, do brand deals. And that's how I was getting a lot of clients at first when I was dancing, was mostly social media. But
that brought you your dancing work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But then all of that, figuring all of that out brought me my own knowledge to be able to start implementing what I was doing on other people. Then it was working on other people. So at that point, it just became word of mouth of, oh, this person is able to offer this for me. I grew this with this person. You should go check them out. So everything's word of mouth now.
And another thing that you have done really well, I want to talk about the Instagram part of it in a second, but you kept and maintained the relationships that you started from dancing, and then were able to transition those relationships over into a different working type of relationship.
Exactly.
So is that just because you value and like good relationships? I mean, is it something that you thought, I need to keep these relationships going to transition, or did it just happen?
All of the above. I think for a while I was really, really successful at dancing, traveling all over the world by myself, getting gigs by myself, to the point where I was able to start kind of hiring my friends for things. But for the most part, everything was solo. And I got really bored. It was really boring to do everything by yourself and be successful by yourself.
Kind of lonely too.
It's kind of lonely. Yeah. I mean, I love traveling by myself, but it would be way more fun if I had friends along with me, especially friends that add the same amount of value that I do. So I pretty much just took what I was doing for myself, and I thought I don't want to do this by myself. This is really boring. So I started teaching my friends and my colleagues the things that I was doing on my own, giving them all these different formulas to be able to hit the same success I was.
Which has developed into your business. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been to Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been to
China.
You've been to Holland, Holland,
London.
London. You've been all
Been all
over the
over.
world,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty dang cool. So you took your experience, you started teaching others.
Mm-hmm.
So now what have you done, or what do you continue to do to keep improving your skills, to keep getting better at what you do?
Honestly, working for other people, doing other people's social media accounts, telling them what they need to be doing with their careers, advising them on how to, maneuver their craft and make money off of the things that they're already good at, makes me have to problem solve, and then I can implement that on myself as well.
So a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And then making adjustments, doing it again, trial and error, making
Exactly.
adjustments. What about, I know you like to read, but I don't remember that you were always a big reader. So,
I read a lot of nonfiction books in
and
high
how about
school,
now?
like Twilight. Now I'm like only self-help books.
Yes.
It's kind of exhausting, though. I think I need to dabble back and forth between both.
I just read a nonfiction book for the first time in a long time. And actually, I was like, holy crap, this is fun. And it's,
it makes you feel more creative.
That's
I feel
right.
like
It makes you feel more creative.
It takes you out of your own world and puts you into someone else's world.
So, yeah. And I've heard and read that a lot of amazing, great writers and marketers, they read, for every business book they read a nonfiction book, because it expands their creativity, their writing styles.
That's actually why I started reading nonfiction books again. And I think that was what was helping me be really creative as a teenager. I never realized that reading all these nonfiction books.
Oh, wait, that's why we started reading fiction books again.
No.
Nonfiction books again.
Yes, I've just started reading nonfiction books again.
Okay.
Because as a teenager, I was reading a lot of nonfiction books. I was reading Twilight.
Those are fiction books. Those are fiction books. Nonfiction books.
You're right.
So I actually said the same thing.
It's so annoying. Nonfiction needs to be not real. That's what it sounds like to me. I know that's not right.
But fiction is
fiction.
Not real.
That's why I started reading fiction books. Thank you for
There you go.
correcting
Yes,
me.
I'm
You're
so
right.
happy to help.
That's why I started reading fiction books again, because as a teenager, I was reading a lot of fiction books, Twilight, whatever else fiction books there were at the time. And I realized that it was helping me really be able to visualize things really easy. So when I would put on a song, I could immediately close my eyes and see a scene happening, or like come up with, front to back the storyline of what this music video would look like. I thought back then it meant I was just going to be a dancer in these music videos, whereas now I realize those fiction books has helped me use my imagination to where I can go and listen to a song and creative direct a music video and actually be the person planning out that entire storyline and then putting, actors, dancers, whatever to it.
Fiction helps.
Fiction helps.
Do you have, you've read a lot of self-help books, a lot of business books. Do you have one or two that you thought have stood out, or that you would recommend to others, that you think young business owners maybe should read?
Business owners, or just like
how about young people in general?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just people in general. I know you're not the biggest fan of this book, but The Power of Now completely transformed my thinking. A New Earth, which was written by Eckhart Tolle as well, same author, in my opinion, was even better than The Power of Now. Breaks things down a little more simpler and helps you understand it.
Would you consider those business books?
Those aren't business books.
Those are life books.
I personally would prefer to read spiritual books over business books, because I feel like once I'm more in tune spiritually and with myself, then I just have things come to me so much easier, and I'm able to see the bigger picture and understand that, the small things matter, but the bigger picture matters more.
Speaking of the bigger picture, this is something that I don't really recall from when you were younger, but now I know you do a lot of planning. You do a lot of forecasting. I know you plan like your day, your week, your month, your year. Talk to me a little bit about that, and how you think it helps you do better at what you do.
Yeah. Well, at first I was doing yearly goals and planning out the year. And then I started realizing, honestly, probably this year is when I realized it. At the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, your goals are so different. And you actually told me this like 6 years ago, to only focus on 3-month goals at a time. And at that time I was like, no, I know what I want. I want these for the whole year. And then by the end of the year, I'd be like, oh, I only accomplished 2 or 3 out of the 10 goals that I had. So I now started doing 3 months at a time, or even smaller increments. With how things are going this year, I actually planned nothing at all. For some reason, at the beginning of the year, I felt like this year is going to be really weird. I'm just going to go with the flow. So I actually just started planning a week at a time, which has been really helpful. More than anything, planning each day at a time, making sure that you write out every single thing that you have to do for the day and plugging in some goals, maybe 2 or 3. It helps, like I said, those small steps lead to the bigger picture. So I'm not really about planning for the bigger things anymore. I'm more about planning the really small steps so they can lead you to the bigger thing.
Which is totally different from how I believe, but there are more than one opinion and more than one way to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
But you did say something that I absolutely love, about planning out your day. I call that showing up to work employed, because if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you only make money off of what you do, well, then it's really good to have an idea of what you're going to do when you show up.
Right.
Otherwise, you're basically unemployed, not making any money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I love the 3-month goals. I think that's one of my favorite things. If you can look at what you'd like to accomplish in 3 months, see how you can break it down month by month, and then week by week, and then day by day, I think that is the easiest way to get where you need to go.
3-month goals are great. And not everyone recognizes, genius things that are told to them when they're young.
It's true.
Sometimes you got to hear it over and over again before you recognize it for what it's worth.
I think everything you've told me while I was young, I've implemented as an adult.
Oh, you're so smart.
Thank you.
That sounds fantastic.
Thanks.
I love hearing that. So it seems to me like you have always valued time and creative freedom over a guaranteed paycheck. But do you? Well, you don't have a guaranteed paycheck.
I do. I have a side gig.
So you have a little
side gig. I
actually
now completely disagree. I think it is so important to have a stable paycheck. And because when I didn't have a stable paycheck and I was working way harder instead of smarter. Now that, just so everyone has a backstory, I work freelance in like 10 different jobs. I do honestly way too many things to where I can't even find a niche for myself, because I technically have a lot of niches that I made myself sit down and get a stable job as a barista that was bringing in money to pay all my bills. So that way all of my creative gigs was just for fun. And I think that actually burned me out of dancing, was because I was working so hard to make money dancing that I couldn't even focus on the creative part of it anymore.
So you call it your side gig, but your side gig is actually funding your fixed bills, your monthly, bills that you have to pay.
Right.
But you make more as a freelancer, but you're not. But you're saying because you're focused on having fun and doing a good job versus I just have to do it to make money, that is making you make more money?
Exactly. Yeah. And the year, I think I went 1 or 2 years completely unemployed, I think, between like 2017 and 2019 or 16 and 18, whatever. I went about 2 years unemployed through other people and only employed with myself. And I lost so many relationships that way because I was so money hungry that everything I was doing was for money instead of for creativity and for fun.
Hey everybody, it's Robert Edgin here, host of Your Money Puzzle podcast. This is a great and safe place to learn what you need to do to have a great financial future. And learning what to do is the right place to start because that will make you wise. But you have to do what you learn if you want to become wealthy. And we want to help you do just that, to do what you learn. It starts with a quick, no obligation, free to you 15-minute phone conversation to talk about your goals and the strategies that will get you there faster and easier. We call it a financial discovery session, and you can schedule yours right now by texting the word discovery to 719-645-4838. We'll text you back with a link to schedule your one-on-one conversation with a real financial advisor. Again, that text number is 719-645-4838. Or you can schedule your appointment online at www.edginjohnsonfinancial.com. Don't worry about not knowing the right questions to ask, and don't be embarrassed about wherever you are in life. We are not here to judge. We are here to help. So if you're ready to get serious about having the financial future that you dream of, it starts with your discovery session. So let's get it scheduled today. Now let's get back to the show. So your income fluctuates a lot
Mm-hmm.
every month.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have excess. Sometimes you are struggling a little bit to get
Right.
to where you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with those fluctuations and still make sure that you can, maintain your lifestyle, pay your bills, do those things?
Cry. I think it's just that the stable income was really helpful. I was really felt like I was just drowning when I was working so hard, making sure, like all my freelance gigs, like you said, I do make more money as a freelancer, but I also, when you look at it of, okay, well, you're paying all your bills with that. Now I only have a couple $100s left to pay for anything. And that's not fun because then you can't even get creative with that. So once I forced myself to go and find a job that was going to guarantee me money every single month, no matter what happened, although clearly coronavirus is
Messing
different.
things up, yes.
Messing things up.
It's changing things.
It has. It's
yes.
definitely changed things, but it still was stable income that was giving me a nice boost of money where I wasn't freaking out that I was going to starve, and that was really helpful. So that's like my biggest advice to everyone is if you feel like you're in financial trouble, go get another job.
Get a little side gig. And your side gig, I mean, is what, like 1 day a week or 2 days a week?
2 or 3 days a week.
Okay. So
it
still leaves you plenty of time to pursue your passions.
Yeah.
But now we've got this quarantine situation going on, and there are all these life changes that happen. This obviously was a very big one that affected the whole world. How have you dealt with being quarantined and not being able to go see clients and do those kinds of things?
Well, luckily now this is where my freelance completely comes in handy because everybody's on social media right now. So everybody needs help with social media. And I've actually grown my clients by like 3 or 4 people, which has tripled my income or quadrupled my income, which is really, really nice. And now that I do have more time because of quarantine, I don't feel like I'm working harder instead of smarter. I'm able to get everything done because I have the time. And hopefully after quarantine, people are still going to use it. And then I can start building a team underneath me. So it pretty much has all just been problem solving. Creative problem solving is like, I feel like that should be my main title for my job.
Creative problem solving.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I like that you did not let the quarantine stop you. You just changed things and adapted. You became more creative. You meet with people different ways, but your business has actually expanded during the quarantine. Yeah. Let's talk about some financial stuff for a second. I know that you're not much of a spender. You like to save, right? You like to see money saved.
Yes.
I mean, just
I hate spending money. It's so
talk to me about
to
that.
me.
It's stressful to spend money.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think if you know that you're going to be getting it back, it's cool. But I think my generation specifically has been born into so much uncertainty that it makes it really hard to want to go spend money. Because if something like this coronavirus happened, if I would have went and spent my paycheck the month before, like most other people do, I would have had no money at all saved up. Whereas I was telling you right now, I have some of the most money I've ever had in my bank account because I'm not spending anything at all. But I don't know. I think it's my whole generation. Like half of us are spenders, I think, out of just like wanting to fit in and buy the things that everyone else has.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other half is just terrified for what the future holds because we have experienced so much in the last 25 years.
Well, I mean, it's a good financial principle to, save first and to have that emergency reserves. That way, if the quarantine hits, it doesn't put you out of business, so it's a very good, sound financial practice. Not to never go spend any money, but to do it after you have make sure that you've saved and that you're prepared and things like that. I also know that you hate debt and you hate owing people money. So, which I don't know. Is that something that you think is true of a lot of your generation, or because I don't see that very often?
No, not at all. Well, I saw this thing a while ago that was like, if you can't buy it and then buy it again, like don't buy it at all, because that means that you can't actually afford it. So that kind of burned into my head of like, oh, well, I definitely can't afford this again, so I don't want to buy it twice, especially because things break and the newer things they make it so you have to replace it faster.
Maintain them, yeah.
Exactly. But no, I think for the most part, people don't think about debt. I have a financial advisor as a dad, so I have been around money a lot my entire life. But most of the people that I know are super in debt, and I think one of my favorite things about myself is that I can watch things happen to other people and take it for myself and make sure to do the opposite. So whether it was in high school, seeing people do, bad things and I've never gone to do those things, or seeing people, my ex roommate was, I think, 10 grand in debt from credit card bills.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to be there because she was working 3 jobs on top of trying to be an entertainer. So
just to maintain that
exactly.
level of debt. That's right. And that does, the lower you keep your debt, this is another excellent, sound, financial practice to live by. The lower you keep your debt means the lower you keep your monthly expenses, because you don't have to service those debts. It gives you more opportunities to do things for fun, or to pursue passions, or to not just be stressed out and have to work 3 jobs, which then how do you have time to go be a dancer?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's an amazing thing about you. I've always really liked that. So Thanks. You are right, you grew up with a financial advisor as a dad, but how do you feel about your finances growing up? I mean, do you feel like, not your finances, but just kind of the family dynamic, do you feel like it helped you, like it hindered you, didn't have any impact at all? So talk to me about how you felt about money and finances growing up.
I would say 99% helped me, 1% hindered me. I know we've had this conversation and it's a little touchy subject, but you have worked really, really hard to get us to where we are, but I do still have a lot of privilege because I was raised on money. So for me, I kind of have an easier way out of, if I'm in financial trouble, you guys will step in and help me. Not that I don't owe you anything back. That's, I hate owing you guys money. It's my least favorite thing in the entire world is owing you guys money, but I still had that option. Whereas a lot of other people I know never had that option and are actually more successful because they had to problem solve even harder than I've had to problem solve. But the aspect of working really, really, really hard will get you exactly what you need has been burned into my brain. And that's why I have multiple sources of income. I can make money while I'm sleeping. I can talk to you if I need help with anything, even if that's just like asking questions rather than, actual money help. So I would say 99% helped me and made me think now like, oh, well, my parents have this, so now I want to work to have this as well.
Okay. But you do feel like maybe that safety net, because, yes. If
you didn't have it either, a safety net.
Who did not?
You didn't.
Actually, I was lucky. If I got into a bad situation, then when I was young, I could go to my dad and ask him for help. He would never give me the money the same way that we don't just give you the money. But, a couple of times we've given you a short-term loan. And I actually had that a little bit as well, but not to the extent that you have. So I had it somewhat.
Exactly.
But that safety net, you think maybe slowed down your growth a little bit?
I can't fully tell. I think it's more of just like the safety net sometimes made it so I didn't have to problem solve so much, which maybe that was a good thing because I didn't have to be so stressed, because being stressed about money is the worst kind of stress I feel like you could possibly have.
Stress. That's right.
It's like health and money are the 2 worst stresses. So I think it definitely, there's a point where I'm like, this is incredible. I don't feel stressed about money. I can just talk to my parents. But then I look at other people who came from literally nothing and had to problem solve so hard that they're in this crazy place that it makes me wonder, if I didn't have the safety net, how would I problem solve instead?
Okay, that's interesting. So are there any lessons that you remember? I mean, you just said, work, or would you say work hard, or whatever you said, it will get you where you want. I mean, that is a lesson that I think everybody should learn in life. The harder you work, the easier it is to get what you want. But do you remember any financial lessons that stuck with you?
Well, I do put away money every single month. I tithe 10%, which I believe you do have to spend money to make money. You can't just keep, filling up a money jar and hope that once it overflows, you're going to be able to keep all your money in there. So although I use my 10% to go and tithe, you can use 10% to go and give back elsewhere. And I am a big believer in just karma and, what you put out, you get in. So that was one big thing that I learned from you, was giving that 10%. When I feel even more financially happy, I do put away 20%, and that 10%, I have 10% that goes to me, 10% goes to tithe, which is my favorite. At one point when I was making a lot of money, I had good amount of money saved in my savings, which I'm looking forward to getting back to. But I think that is like the main one I can really remember.
Well, and I'm a big believer, obviously, in tithing 10%. And everyone feels different, whether it's charity or you're a church or whatever it is. But I think that is a big part. Money does not flow to you; it should flow through you.
Yeah.
So that is a part of it. And as you give, so you do receive.
Exactly.
I believe that. But also, you said you put away money every month. So that is another important financial lesson, and a big one, which just has allowed you to do this, is that you live below your means. Whatever it is that your income is, you have figured out how to live lower than that, which allows you to keep this freedom and pursue these other things.
Exactly.
So is there anything else? We're going to wrap this up. Is there anything else that you would like to recommend or encourage maybe people in their 20s who want to start a business or who want to, branch off and chase passions? Is there anything that you would encourage them or want to tell them?
I feel like there's so many things that I almost don't even know where to start. First and foremost, do what you love every single day. If you don't do something that makes you happy, you're going to be miserable. And although you can make money with your passions, and I'm actually a huge believer that you can make money off your passions. My whole job is showing people how to make money off of the simple things that you're good at. I also think it's so important to have a side gig or a side hustle until that creative money is just overflowing so much that you don't need a side hustle.
Yeah.
But in general, like even having a side hustle has made me fix my schedule. Now everybody has to work their schedules around me. For a second, I was really overwhelmed because my schedule was revolved around other people. Now that I have a solid job, everyone kind of has to work around my stuff, on top of me having stable money every month where I don't feel like I'm just drowning in other people's work and no money. So my main thing, I think, would just be get a side job and then do what you love on top of it. And you can make money doing both, especially the more creative and free you feel, the more money is just going to come to you because you're putting out better product in general.
I like it. So if people want to follow you on Instagram or connect with you, what is your preferred way or how should they do that?
You can follow me on Instagram at Taylor Edgin. I also have my creative direction page, which is really fun to look at. It's all the jobs I've been doing for other people creatively, and that is Jaded Directions.
Jaded Directions. And I'll put those links in our show notes. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking some time to come to the studio. I don't normally hug my guests and tell them I'm proud of them, but I'm going to give you a hug.
Thanks for birthing me.
Because I am
Or
proud
I guess
of you.
helping birth me. You didn't birth me, but
I did not, but I was there.
You were.
Yes, I saw it happen.
I have half the face, so thanks for half of my
you
face.
Do. So, all right, that is it for this week. If you've got questions about your own money puzzle, you can email those to me to questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. If you'd like to set up a quick 15 to 20 minute phone consultation just to talk about what you've got going on, give us a call at 719-685-8585. Until next week, be safe, be healthy, have some fun, and go do something to improve your money puzzle. Your future self will thank you for it. Bye.
See ya.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgin Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.